preseason's eve. The Scoot era is nearly upon us. Today we're going to go over our respective depth charts for the Blazers and maybe if we get to it, make some season predictions for the team. The Dame trade is finally done, so we can talk about the team and next season, which I'm very excited about.
I'm going to talk about anything other than the letter O. Let's see what this team has in store.
Riley's our resident scorned lover of the team.
It's an exciting future. All I'm saying is that I'm not going to be able to watch a whole lot of Bucks basketball this year. It's weird. I'm actually kind of rooting for them. I want them to do well. I just don't think I can watch it.
I'm on the other side. I mean, I know we're not going to go too deep into Dame, but now that it's not Miami, I'm interested to watch some Bucks games here and there, especially when it comes to the playoffs. Let's see how it goes.
But we're not talking about the Blazers. We're not talking about the Bucks. The other night, Saturday night, or a few nights ago, I watched all of the media day videos on the Blazers YouTube channel, like literally all of the interviews with every player. It got me very excited about the season to come. They did a good job of selling me. If that was their mission, which I think it is the team's mission, media days, to sell the fans, they definitely got me to bite because I was very excited. I thought that basically everyone that they interviewed said all the right things, seemed like someone to really root for that I could get behind. You know, obviously all these guys have a ton of media training and they're all know what to say and how to say it and stuff, but they did a good job from Matisse Thybulle to Simons to Jeremy to Ayton, obviously Scoot, and then some of the like Brogdon's interview I thought was really good too. He talked about how he has talked with Chauncey, he's talked with Joe Cronin, he's talked with management, and he wants to be there. They want him to be there. Obviously, he could end up being a trade piece if it doesn't work out or if they need a different option. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of realized I think that that's a really good fit to have him backing up Scoot with so much youth at the guard positions, to have a 30-year-old vet, plays good defense, can run the team, can knock down shots. I like him as a backup option to mentor them as well. And Chris Murray's interview also had me interested in him too. I think he could be a real piece for them coming off the bench, if not this year, then in the near future. So yeah, they did a good job of selling me, but it's all based around one dude. Can't deny it. Scoot Henderson is definitely the guy that I'm really excited to see what happens this season. I think he could end up being awesome, like really a great NBA player. Everyone in the interviews talked about his court vision, ability to see the floor, spread the floor, getting his teammates involved, and then obviously his athleticism. Every player, when they asked him about Scoot, they said, damn, he fast, motherfucker fast. Like they were all just in awe of his athleticism, his speed, but also his vision. So I'm sold. You guys did a good job, Blazers media and Joe Cronin. You guys did a good job.
So because this is a depth chart video, let's just start right there. Are we all going down the line and saying Scoot Henderson is going to be the starter at point guard no matter what when the regular season starts? Maybe in the preseason they experiment, but who do you guys think is going to start at point guard? Is Simons going to start there and Sharp starts, or is Brogdon going to start? Who do you guys think is going to start?
Simons is the shooting guard. Scoot's the point guard.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for weeks now, maybe months, that I feel bad for the poor marketing department in Portland trying to figure out how to sell this team to people and try to sell tickets. Well, they got their team set up now and they know who they're selling. And we all know exactly who they're selling. And first and foremost, that's Scoot Henderson. Yeah, he's going to be the starting point guard. I hope everyone had fun looking at the little pool party shoot, of all the young Blazers. You can tell that they had that one planned for a few weeks. As soon as Dame was out of there, they were going to get all the 25-year-old smiling guys in the pool for a shoot. But I will say, ESPN needs to do our man Scoot a favor and check out the media day photos to update his headshot, because he looks like he would rather be anywhere else. If you haven't seen his ESPN headshot, I'd recommend it.
I don't think
best.
I just looked it up. I don't think that jersey is a Blazers jersey.
I think it's from his G League.
If we're being optimistic, I don't think it's a Blazers jersey. So.
Yeah, and I agree with you guys. I think there's no way Scoot Henderson comes off the bench, nor should he. We've had comments in the past, people are saying, well, what about starting with Simons, Sharp, bringing Scoot off the bench? Scoot is he might not be a superstar day one, but he's gonna bring the energy for this team. He's gonna set the team on the right course. He's gonna bring that fire that the team needs. He's played 2 years of professional basketball. I know it's not the NBA, but it's with grown men. He's been the starting point guard for 2 years with all people older than him already, and he played really well. So I think there's no way Scoot is not the starting point guard, barring injury, coming opening night. We'll see it in the preseason, but I really hope Chauncey doesn't throw some wild card and say, well, Brogdon earned the starting lineup, the starting point guard spot. That would be very frustrating. I don't think it's going to happen, because we know the future is with the guards. Cronin knows it. He said it in media day that the future's with the guards. And I think Chauncey knows it too. So Scoot's going to start at point guard. I think shooting guard is where it gets really interesting. But really, we're talking about the wing. We'll get there. But
let me make another point about Scoot before we move on.
Yeah,
another really exciting thing about him that I think a reason that he really fits in well with this team. Looking at Simons, looking at Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton, there's really no alpha there. Shaedon obviously is a great athlete, but pretty quiet. Simons, kind of similar, great athlete. I've heard that he's stepping into the veteran role at 24 years old. Well, but he's still pretty mild-mannered and quiet. Jeremy Grant, same way. You don't really hear too much out of him. And Ayton's kind of similar, pretty laid-back dude. Not really the alpha. Scoot is the exact opposite of that. He is the 100% the killer instinct, talking about how he's going to kill his opponent. He's got a little bit of that Jordan, Kobe sort of mindset with his competitiveness, his fire, as you mentioned. And I think that's something that the Blazers desperately need, this young team full of kind of quieter guys that are trying to find themselves maybe a little bit more. It seems like at 19 years old, Scoot knows exactly who he is, and he knows what he's going to bring to the team. And I think he's going to fit in well with the team, and also in that point guard leadership role as the starting point guard. Anyway, on to shooting guard. Go ahead, Colton.
Oh, and I think you nailed it. And like I said, he's going to be passionate. He's going to bring the energy for sure. Shooting guard, I think we're probably all going to have a similar answer here as well. I do think it's interesting. I'm just going to say it because we kind of rotate through, but I don't think there's any way Anthony Simons comes off the bench. I think he's one of the few people. I know Chauncey said that people are going to grab their own role on this team, and whether that's all the way down the line on lineups, but I think that Simons is pretty much penciled in for the starting shooting guard spot because he's been here for so long. He's the only player that's been on the roster past April 2022. Like, the whole team has shuffled out since that point, if you look at it down the line. So I think he'll be there for continuity's sake. I think part of it, he's been lost in the shuffle and been underrated because of the fit with Damian Lillard. And I know we've harped on Simons in the past on this podcast before. Simons definitely still has a lot of potential, and he has dunk contest athleticism, volume 3-point shooting at a high clip, mid-range, floater. He has the whole package in terms of offense. Again, his question is, do we have a defensive guard that fits next to him on the roster, whether that's Scoot or Shaedon? Or does he improve on the defensive end? That's the questions with Simons. I think he'll, of course, take a step up this season. I think he'll average 25 points per game. I think he'll probably look pretty good doing it. It's just a matter of, do we keep him or does he blossom as a trade chip and we move forward with Shaedon and Scoot? We'll find out, but for now, I definitely think he's the starting shooting guard.
Yep, I think Anthony is the starting shooting guard as well. I think he's earned it. He's been, he's been an important leader through this big transition for the team. And not only that, but I mean, he's an incredible player. I mean, you can't give the guy the accolades just for being there, but he actually has stepped up. And at times when Dame was out, whether that was legitimate out or whether that was tanking out, he showed signs of being a high ranking option on a good team. I think he's a legitimate 20 to 25 point a game scorer. And I'm really excited to see what he can do at the 2 instead of having to bring the ball up the floor so much. I think his weakness, other than on the defensive end, is probably kind of his decision making, which is partly from his youth.
Yeah.
He definitely had some terrible turnovers. I'm glad that he's not necessarily going to be bringing the ball up the floor every time, because we have a guy who's spent some time playing professional level basketball who's going to be bringing the ball up the floor, who does not have the turnover bug. So I think he's going to be the recipient of some really good ball movement and some really fast up tempo offense. And I think he's going to fit in really well at the number 2. So, yep.
Starter. I mean, to be fair, he played with point guard last year and didn't look very good. He didn't really have to handle the ball all the time either and struggled. But Scoot is a different player than Dame. I think Scoot's ability, I mean, it's not like Dame couldn't drive and kick, but Scoot plays that chaotic downhill style, super athletic. And I think, as a 10-year veteran, Dame probably is as good of a passer as Scoot, but I think starting off their career, Scoot is a way far head and shoulders above better passer than Dame, at that age.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so he has the chance to improve that even more and surpass Dame pretty quickly. I think within a couple of years, he really has that potential. And so I think that pairing might work well, but the real, as Colton pointed out, the real test is going to be on the defensive side of the ball, where I think Scoot has the chance to be maybe better than Dame this year, potentially. His athleticism, his size, blocking, going up and being able to block shots, get the steals. He really shows he looks like he has an instinct to play defensive basketball, which Dame just never really had. He was always a sniper and an assassin on offense, but pretty limited on defense. So having that option next to Simons might be able to plug up some of his deficiencies and help him out a little bit. I obviously have Simons starting at the 2 as well. I think the fit is pretty good. And to transition, if you guys want to go back and talk about the 2 some more, but to transition the 3, I have Shaedon Sharpe playing. And I think that Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, and Scoot Henderson is a totally different 3-guard lineup than Dame, CJ, and Norman Powell. There's a lot more size, a lot more athleticism, explosiveness. I think it's just a completely different 3-guard lineup. It's still not maybe quite as much size as maybe some Blazers fans would like to see, but in a season where, winning isn't necessarily everything this year, it's not win or bust. I'm kind of excited to see those 3 guys play together, see how it works out, see if Scoot and Shaedon can guard their positions and maybe a position above. You never know. It'll be fun to watch, and I think it'll help Simons stay on the floor and not look so bad on defense.
Well, we'll talk about the bench obviously after this. We're kind of going through the starting lineup, I've noticed, and we'll go back and touch on the depth pieces at each spot briefly, I'm sure. I have this feeling that Chauncey's going to start Matisse Thybulle at the 3. And Matisse Thybulle is actually smaller than Shaedon. He's like 6'5", which again, but Matisse has that defensive prowess that the Blazers need, and he's, he can check bigger wings 100%. I know he's best as like an off-ball pest, but I think that here's one of the reasons why I think that Chauncey's going to start Matisse. Sharp is going to see a lot of minutes at the 3 while the Blazers still have Malcolm Brogdon. He's definitely going to be playing a lot of minutes at the 3. It's not about who starts, it's about who finishes, for one thing. And 2, when you have Scoot, Ayton, Grant, Simons all in that lineup, somebody's not really going to get a lot of opportunity on the offensive end, because I think we'll get to DeAndre Ayton in a second, but I think Ayton and Grant are going to be the, ahead of Sharp in the pecking order 100%. I think Simons will probably be the first option, and Ayton might even be the second option, because I think they want him to improve his game. That does not leave a lot of opportunity for Shaedon. He'd kind of be like the 5th man that gets to touch the ball the least amount, and I don't really want that, and I don't really think Chauncey wants that. Before this all went down, we all wanted Shaedon to start. I still want Shaedon to start. But I think what's going to happen, especially at the beginning of the season, is Shaedon is going to come off the bench, either at the 2 or at the 3, mostly 3. He's going to get a lot of minutes at the 3. Once Brogdon gets traded and it's back down to 2 guards, or 2 other guards rather than 3 other guards, I think Shaedon will not only get more minutes even than that, but play less at the 3, which is what we want. I think Shaedon's athletic ability would be best suited at the 2. He's like 6'6", and he could use his size and his, physical gifts very well, and we would finally not have an undersized backcourt. But because we don't know how it's going to boil down with Simons and Scoot and everything, right now he's going to play a lot of the 3, and with Brogdon there. So we'll see what happens. That's my prediction. I was wrong on the starting 3 last year. I thought Nasir Little was going to be the starting 3, and it was Josh Hart. And then that kind of shifted into a whole nother topic altogether. But so I was wrong before. I could be wrong now. Shaedon could start, and I'd be fine with that. You're right. It's not about minutes this year, but the 3 is the great question right now. What if Chris Murray comes in and takes the 3, because the 3 and D, you never know. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think you both make some really good points, and Kirby, you make a good point that, it's not necessarily about winning this year. If it was about winning this year, I think we would owe it to ourselves to play Jeremy Grant at the 3 and play Time Lord and DeAndre as the Twin Towers. I don't think that's going to happen. That's kind of what I'd like to see. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that there's a good chance that Shaedon is coming off the bench. I looking at his statistics and just looking at how he's performed, I just don't know that he's earned a definite starter spot. I just don't know that he's really there yet. I mean, he definitely has the potential to be that kind of guy. He's a great scorer, but he's pretty inconsistent, and he's had some kind of I wouldn't call them confidence issues, but just streakiness issues maybe. And so I think that in order to try to balance the team and to try to let Scoot kind of take over the distribution, probably Anthony's going to get a lot of the shots early on. And then we got to play our bigs too. I mean, Jeremy and Ayton, they've got to eat, both of them. So I think that you bring in Thibault to be kind of a defensive anchor at 3 to start with, and see how it goes. I think that this is a year for experimenting with lineups, which makes the starting lineup prediction kind of funny, because it could be several different things throughout the year. But I do think that there's a good chance that we start with Shaedon off the bench, because Shaedon off the bench with Brogdon could be a lot of fun, honestly. And I think that we need the defense.
Yeah, maybe you guys convinced me a little bit. I don't know. I think that like you mentioned, Colton, the starting lineup isn't really what matters here. It's the finishing lineup. And I think that lineup, I think Shaedon's going to be playing. He's already proven that he's a pretty good closer. He's had numerous clutch moments already. He's won games being the primary ball handler, primary scorer, obviously in the tanking part of the season. And with Simons and Scoot, maybe he wouldn't have the ball in his hands as much. But I think that he'll be there to end the games, He'll be a backdoor lob threat at the very least, and he's shown himself to be a good catch and shoot player too. So I don't think he has to have the ball in his hands kind of player. That might end up being more of a battle between Henderson and Simons, like it was last year with Dame and Simons, but that didn't really turn out to be any battle at all. Who has the ball in their hands? Who's making the decisions in the crunch time situations? I think to start off, it'll probably be Simons. And as the season progresses, Billups might give a little bit more leash to Scoot and see which one of them performs better in that situation. But moving on to the power forward position, another guy who might get some, real touches in the crunch time situations might be kind of leaned on as one of the big playmakers. He had several big game winners last year early in the season. Jeremy Grant, highest paid player on the team. He'll obviously start like you talked about with I forgot to mention this when you were talking about Simons. Well, another reason that there's no way in hell he'll come off the bench is the kind of money he's making, and it's the same way with Jeremy. Those two guys and DeAndre, they're all the highest paid players on the team. They're definite starters.
Yeah, and I think, not to go back to Simons, but I do think it would be very cool to see a Scoot Shaedon starting lineup with Simons coming off the bench. I think that would be the most natural fit and lights out, but we know it's not going to happen. He's the highest paid player behind the other two guards. But you're right. Jeremy's going to start at the 4 again. They had interviews with Chauncey, kind of what you mentioned in training camp. And he specifically said that Williams and Ayton were not going to start together. But he did say that lineup would see minutes, most likely, with Ayton and Time Lord playing together. But going into it, we're going to start Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant's kind of an interesting piece this year for a couple of reasons. He's been on a rebuilding Detroit before, but now he's 29. And I think he's a good vet to have. We've talked about this last year, obviously, but he's from Portland. So he doesn't seem like a malcontent that's going to ruin kind of how everything goes down. But I do think he's going to want his shots, his touches, and he's going to be one of the go-to guys on the floor. He might be a trade candidate already coming up this trade deadline, just to kind of keep restocking the young treadmill core. But who knows, if the lineup kind of gels better than we think, he might fit in better. And if we can acquire a power forward to slide him up to the 3 like this podcast desperately wants, maybe he might fit in coming into the future. I think this year is going to be not a make or break year for Jeremy, but depending on how competitive we are and how much fun he's having, it's going to really decide his future on the team. And I think Jeremy's, a great fit. And I know the contract, people are stressed about the contract. I think that as the salary cap continues to inflate, people are going to say, well, it's not the best deal, but it's not the worst for a Portland deal because Portland has to overpay their players. I'm very interested to see how Jeremy Grant handles this season for many reasons, but if he's having a good time, he might move forward with us into the future for at least a couple more seasons to kind of shepherd the core over. But if he wants out at the deadline, he will probably go out. He can't be traded until December 15th, I believe. So keep an eye on Jeremy Grant and some trade rumors if he's unhappy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's starting at the 4, obviously, just to get that out of the way. But yeah, I do think that this is a make or break year for Jeremy. And I pretty much agree with everything else you said. I think that he's going to decide pretty early on, probably within the first 20, 25 games, whether he's in or whether he's out, because he's going to realize pretty quick that he's the second oldest guy on the team. He's going to have to decide whether he wants to take on a very much, leadership, mentorship kind of a role on this team, or whether he wants to go be like a, 3rd or 4th option on a team that maybe is more of a contender. And those are two very different types of careers. Guys can be happy doing either thing. We've seen that happen, but it is a decision that has to be made. And I could see it going either way. He's got a big contract. If he likes being in Portland and he wants to play with these young guys and run fast and try to build something here, why not? He's got a great deal. But if he wants to contend, he might ask out at the trade deadline. because we're not going to contend. And, you know, if he wants out, I wouldn't necessarily blame him, because when he signed, we were a very, very different team than we are now. And
he left Detroit, a team in rebuild mode, to come to Portland to compete, and now he's found himself in probably even a bigger rebuild situation.
So it'll be interesting to see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him maybe kind of quietly ask out pretty close to the deadline. Or maybe he's going to have a blast. I don't know. We'll see. But he's definitely starting.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Jeremy Grant and Malcolm Brogdon handle their roles as the vets on the team. If they're, you know, interested in building a culture here and being the kind of mentors, or, as you guys pointed out, if they want out and want to go contend for a championship somewhere. It'll be interesting to see as the season unfolds how well they fit in. Moving on to center position, I don't think there's really any questions here. Even though we got two good ones now, all of a sudden the Blazers have two legit centers, more size than they've had since LaMarcus Aldridge and Robin Lopez. And even those guys didn't have the athleticism that DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams bring. But I think it's pretty obvious that DeAndre Ayton will be starting as a max player, starting center on a team that went to the finals, walking 2010 type guy. Looks like he might have a new lease on life in Portland. Great athlete, great at running the floor, which is exactly what is going to work perfectly with this super young team. So yeah, I love that, double-headed monster of Ayton and Williams. I'm really excited about that. See those lobs and those highlights and them running the floor. But Ayton's got a lot more than just lob threat potential. He's got touch around the rim, he's a good back to the basket player, and he's shown flashes of being a good rim protector and a guy you can actually somewhat build your defense around, funnel guys in there. Obviously Williams has that ability too. So I like what I'm seeing from the center position from the Blazers. I think that's the biggest win from trade day, as most people probably do, getting so much size. In one of the interviews, Matisse Thybulle was asked what was different between this year and last year, and he said, looking around here, we're huge. We're so much bigger than the team ever was, at any point before. And then Robert Williams was asked too about the size, and he said, yeah, looking around here, there's a couple legit 7-footers. So it's obviously those two guys are the main guys, but there's several other guys further back in the depth chart that are big boys, and it's going to be fun to watch their athleticism on display, their lob potential. Center position is all of a sudden very fun for the Blazers, and it hasn't been for a long time.
Not since Joel Prisbilla and Greg Oden.
Hey,
it's been a center rotation where we're like, wow, either guy can actually
Joel the Thriller Prisbilla.
Yeah, so I am almost as excited. This sounds crazy. I'm almost as excited to see DeAndre Ayton on the Blazers as I am Scoot. I'm of course, Scoot's the number one attraction that I'm excited to see. But I'm telling you, if you want a premiere on DeAndre Ayton's game, go watch his highlights from the Bahamas this summer. He was balling out. I'm pretty sure he helped them qualify. He was just, running the floor, dunking. He had a move where he had the ball at the 3-point line, dribbled in with 3 dribbles, pulled up for the mid-range, got it. Like, not only can he run the floor, he's very mobile. He's got, like you said, great touch. I think that the combination of Scoot and Ayton pick and rolls, that shouldn't be the only offense that Chauncey runs. But man, either guy, whether it's Scoot taking it all the way, DeAndre can either pop out or go to the rim for a lob. Wow. I feel like those two are such a great fit just in general. I think that Scoot's attitude is a great fit with Ayton's. I think that Scoot is not the type to allow people to kind of just sag. He brings everybody up on the bench. He's either cheering for people or just bringing people up. That's not what DeAndre Ayton is used to having. He's used to having Chris Paul being a jerk to him, Devin Booker acting too cool for him, the Suns front office disregarding him when he's a key piece on a finals team 2 wins away from a title. I mean, his coach didn't reach out to him all summer. Like, this guy has so much talent that he can still go up another level. I could rant about this all day. I've been wanting the Blazers to get DeAndre Ayton for 2 years now, and it paid off finally. And I'm excited to see it. It could flop. This could still flop. This could fall apart.
I love your I've been waiting for this and it paid off. Like you're waiting.
I have. We've talked. How many times have I talked about the Blazers getting Ayton before?
We made it happen. This podcast made it happen.
Well, no, okay. You know what I'm saying. I'm just excited to see it.
No, I'm saying we manifested it. That was us.
We manifested it.
This
could still fall apart. Ayton could just be kind of a random fourth option guy on a team that still has talent, but or he could take his game up another level, be a 22-10 guy that just kind of dominates out there. Dominating. We'll see, but I'm very excited.
Dominating.
I think he's going to be a 20+ and 10 guy. I mean, he hasn't been very far from that even in Phoenix, and I think that he's going to be, for one thing, they're going to rely on him a little bit more in Portland, and just because of his age and experience, they're going to defer to him a little bit more. But I also think that his mentality is going to be a lot better, because obviously he's just one of those guys who, when the vibe isn't good, he deflates a little bit. And I mean, that's okay. Whether you can call that a defect if you want to. I mean, maybe it is something that, these guys should be able to just work through for what they get paid. But the fact is that that's a personality trait that's pretty hard to just overcome for a lot of people. And he needed a fresh start. And, when we watched the media day, his interview was probably the one that excited me the most, because he is stoked to be here. And I hope that it keeps going. And I hope that his coaches and the team, the trainers, his teammates, everyone just sort of understands that about him, just understands that from a motivation perspective, what he needs is probably just continuous build up, and it does seem like Scoot's a great fit for that. I'm excited to see it. And I think that if they give him what he needs and give him that like affirmation and that positivity and that energy to just make him feel like he's where he's supposed to be, then there's nothing that could really stop him from being a 25-10 guy. Because he's a number 1 pick, and he was a number 1 pick for a reason. And it's been a long time since we've had a number 1 pick center who actually got to play some minutes. So let's go.
Yep. You made a good point, Colton. I want to touch on it real quick that Henderson's energy and bringing up everybody, I feel like, is going to be a huge factor on this team. And I think that he will impact Ayton's game maybe more than any other player. They could end up being a dynamic duo, a duo that really no one saw coming, and all of a sudden they could be one of the best duos in the league potentially. So that takes
for that.
What was that? Oh, they have the
talent for that. They're high picks for a reason, like regarded prospects, and whether Luka should have been picked before Ayton, definitely, but Ayton has a lot of talent, and I don't think it was used correctly in Phoenix.
So that takes us to the end of our starting lineup depth chart. We definitely used the full amount of time on that. I think we were expecting to go in a little deeper, but last year we did a series of videos that was like breaking down each position and talking about the depth from each position. So maybe we'll do something similar to that here in the next few videos. Also, we are going to be making some predictions from the season very soon, so stay tuned. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.